So it's Thursday, and I ran to Quick Trip and I had to get a tote box because I brought my motorcycle today because it's nice out, and I'm getting a new windshield put in my car. It's been cracked for a long time and it's getting worse, so I bit the bullet and they're going to put a new windshield in it. So I left that at home, so I brought the bike, and it's in the shop right now, and I'll turn the camera over there in a little bit, but it needs a spring spruce up. I got to give it the once in a year wax job. I usually only wax it once a year because the first thing I'm going to do is take it out and drive it down a gravel road. So it doesn't pay to be cleaning it. And you know, there's two ways to look at this stuff. I've seen people where they basically use the motorcycle as a trophy, and they'll have a checkerboard floor or an epoxy floor, and they roll it into a little spot, and they've got some trophies around it and stuff. So it's a piece of art, and they would never take it out if it was raining or anything but totally sunny and perfect, because they would somehow degrade the thing. You know, that's one extreme. Then you got the other extreme where it's never seen water in its life, or a sponge, or soap. And they're just cruddy as hell, but they drive the hell out of them. I'm kind of in between those two things. I like to keep it looking nice, but I also understand if you're going to drive it, it's going to get dirty. So I don't shy away from weather or bad roads. You know, I more embrace that kind of stuff than shy away from it. So consequently, my motorcycle needs a little cleanup. It needs, I washed it, it looks pretty good actually, but it needs a wax. So I'm going to do that, get it cleaned up real good, and that'll be nice. And I've got the other bike here, number 103. Now that I have them in the shop, mine has more red than this one. This one's more toward a maroon brown, mine's more toward a kind of a burgundy red. They're really close though, but there's no way two motorcycles, even yours, in the same brand will ever be the same. They go out of their way to make sure that nothing will ever match. And if you have leftover paint and you sell the bike, you might as well throw the paint away because it's never going to work on anything else. So that's one thing. And I was looking at a new car. I thought, well, I'm going to buy a brand new car that's maybe 3 years old. Brand new for me is something I haven't previously owned. I looked and I thought, and then we bought furniture. So next year I'll buy a car. I'll go another year with my little Nissan Leaf, but I actually want to get a Chevy Bolt. From what I've read, that's probably the best electric car you can buy, believe it or not. They had a problem with fires with them, but they replaced all the batteries. So if you buy a used one right now, you're getting a brand new battery. So, you know, that's good. But I'm going to wait a year. Price will be down, and I won't be buying furniture. So, you know, I don't know if you guys get the Goldwing Docs newsletter every month, but this month was something I didn't know. I don't really frequent the message board, so I don't know what's going on. I basically avoid them because it's frustrating for me. I see all the, what I call, or should I say, reptile lubricants that people push. Stuff that I know is not going to work, and they just go nuts over how fantastic these items are and stuff, and just a whole bunch of weird stuff. So I just kind of stay off of them. I don't really want to get involved in, you know, trying to tell people that the stuff doesn't work. You know, that's kind of a futile adventure. So I don't really know all the stuff that's going on, but it appears all the motorcycles from 218 and up, on some of them, there's an issue where there's a left-handed retaining bolt that holds a bearing in place. I think it's behind the clutch, probably the main shaft bearing, and the head of that bolt snaps off. It just falls off, which tells me somebody misread the torque spec They over torque the bolt, good and tight, and yeah, the bolt comes off. Probably, as it heats up and the aluminum expands at a different rate than the metal, it puts additional pressure on the bolt, which can make it snap off, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know the details exactly, and I don't know how big a problem this is. I just know it's concerning because it completely trashes the engine. It locks them up. You're going down the highway at 70 miles an hour and all of a sudden your back wheel stops turning. That can be kind of fun. But it's manual and the DCT. So that's kind of a disturbing thing. Then I saw another thing about how to fix the stripped valve cover bolts. The bolts on these gold wings that hold the valve covers on, they're about 2 inches long, and they have a shoulder. So once you snug them up, that's it. If it leaks, you take the bolt out and you either replace the gasket or you stick an additional O-ring there or something, but you don't tighten them up. Tightening them up will not do anything because the shoulders already hit the casting and it's not going to go any further. My bike had 2 stripped ones. When I went to powder coat my valve covers, I noticed 2 of them just about fell out. They weren't doing anything. And I fixed them, and I got a video. I'll put the link in the description to the video on how I fixed it. One way you can fix it, but I would not recommend this, is you very carefully put a little steel wool in the hole, and then you screw the bolt in. The problem I have with that is any of those steel wool shavings come off, they can get in the engine. The filter will probably grab them, but the oil pump won't. The oil pump doesn't have a filter, it just has a screen in front of it. So that kind of is not a real good idea. It's a good way to fix a bolt, but not something like this that's in the engine. Now the lower ones are okay because those don't actually go into the engine, they just cover up the spark plug leads and that kind of thing. It's the top ones you got to be careful with. Those are the ones that were stripped. What I did is a 1/4 inch bolt is actually bigger than the 10 millimeter bolts they use. So what I did is I cut the end of the screw off, and I welded a bolt on it, and then I cut a little notch, and you'll see that in the video how I did it. And it worked really good. And I put an additional tiny little O-ring, and I have not had a single leak. And it's been 2 years, so it's working. So not to despair. A lot of these things that seem just horrendous are not. I mean, I bought a bike that was a salvage title. Only thing that was wrong with it, it had a hole in the crankcase about the size of the tip of my little finger. On the very bottom, somebody hit something with it, poked a hole in the crankcase, and the oil leaked out. So they called the insurance company totaled the bike. So I bought the bike, I think that was a 2005, I believe. And I don't know what I paid for it, it's under $3,000. And it didn't have that many miles on it. The fix didn't cost a thing. I basically roughed up the aluminum a little bit. I cut a piece of sheet metal bigger than the hole and used some panel bond adhesive, stuck it underneath there, and then coated it real good, left it harden, and it's been fine. I sold that bike 3 years ago, and the owner lives in town here, and every spring he has me change oil in it, and that thing has not leaked a drip. The panel bond adhesive is impervious to oil, and it'll withstand probably 450 to 500 degrees. Well, that panel never get above 212, 200 at the most, otherwise it's going to boil the oil out. So, it was a zero fix, and I converted to a Trikes, sold to the guy, he's happy as hell. So, a lot of things can be fixed for very, very little money. Yeah, other than that, not a lot going on except we have this unseasonal weather. I think we had 7 inches of snow this winter, which is about, 48, 49 inches below normal. It's crazy. So, Yeah, the construction business here is done. I don't have any bikes to do. What I have is done. The Victory's out in the trailer, and I've got this one in here, the Venture, because the owner's coming to get this one Monday or Tuesday next week. So this one's in here. Oh, I just heard my air compressor click. I was smart, I unplugged it. That was the first time for that one. So anyway, these are in here. This one here is just going to sit here. I'm going to cover it up so it doesn't get dirty. I polished it really good, and I'll swing the camera on and show you. It looks really good. She's a really pretty nice and shiny bike. Mine, I've got to do some stuff mechanically on it. I don't like the alignment on the front. Phone. It's good, except it's got too much camber, which I'm going to reduce. I think it's running about maybe a degree and a half, which is too much. So I'm going to shim that back out to about a half a degree, which will lighten up the steering a little bit, and that'll help a little bit. So I got a couple little minor things to do on that. So I guess I'm going to check the phone to see who called, and if it's a spam call, which it probably is, or not. And then I'm going to drink my coffee here and eat my little sandwich, and I'm going to go do this other stuff. But I want to show you what these bikes look like too. So let's take a peek. You can see that one is quite shiny. I buffed out the tank, the fairing, and the saddlebags, and the trunk. I buffed them real good and waxed them, and she's looking good. That bike looks brand spanking new, and everything matches so nice. He kind of wanted me to do some stuff on the saddlebags, but I kind of didn't, because I just think it wouldn't look right. I think it looks really good as is. I made some modifications on the little bolts that hold the seat on. I made them so that you can unscrew them by hand. You don't need a wrench to take it off, because the battery is under there, and that's kind of important. You want to be able to pull the seat off if you're stranded somewhere, you know. So we got that going over there, and then this guy, if you look at this right wheel, you can see she's tipped out a bit, a little bit more than the other side. So I want to kind of fix that. But you know, they're looking pretty good. We got a pair of nice colored bikes. I don't know. It's nice. It is a nice color. I'm partial toward red color, so I would have to agree. These are both very nice looking bikes. So, well, it turns out the phone message was my brother-in-law. He's got a 2013 Nissan Rogue, and the tranny's going bad, and he wants to know if I know somebody reputable that would take care of it, because the guy who diagnosed it says he doesn't do trannies. So I told him where to take it, a place where I have all my transmissions done. Ugh. See, this is why, and I know it's controversial, but this is why I will buy only an electric car if I buy another car. There's no maintenance. I mean, I'm going on 2 years, and I have yet to do anything on my electric car. And you know, every gas vehicle I have is transmissions, valves, heads, timing chains, timing belts. I mean, it's just nonstop. And I've done many transmissions. When I was in the garage door business, I was pretty much a transmission per year in my large 2.5 ton cargo thing. Yeah. So anyway, he is going to be trying to figure out if the car is worth fixing. It's got 120,000 miles on it, which is nothing. It's a 2013. I don't know what 2013 Nissans are worth. I'm guessing it's worth, I'm thinking about 16, maybe in that neighborhood. And the tranny's going to cost them about $6,500 to $7,000, right in that range, I would think. That's pretty much what I pay when I have all my transmissions done, which I think was 3 of them. The first one I paid for, the last 2 were under warranty. The same vehicle. And less than 2 years. Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem when you have 20,000 moving parts versus 6. I had another thing come up though, and this is interesting. One of my past customers, recent customers I should say, not past, recent, when he was driving his Goldwing, he said it would all of a sudden lose power and sound different. And I said, well, and he wanted to know if I knew what might be wrong. And I said, well, my 2003, if I drove it like 15 miles an hour, like if we were looking at houses or landscaping or some stupid thing, and I drove like 5 or 6 blocks at really low speed, or if I was, you know, in the mountains and traffic was moving at 10 miles an hour or so, the F1 light would come on, and it would all of a sudden kind of drop down in RPM, and it was like it retarded the timing. It was exactly what it sounded like. In fact, I think that's what it did. But I could still drive, and it had decent power and all that stuff. And if I turned the key off, turn it back on, it was fixed. And it never did it while I was driving unless I drove really slow for an extended amount of time. And I replaced the oxygen sensors, didn't do a thing. And I never did figure out what was wrong with it. We don't have that bike anymore, so I will never find out. So I'm not too sure what it was. I didn't read the codes or anything, but I was thinking this was also a deal where I said, well, you know, I had one customer that his rear caliper, you know, he stepped on the brake and it didn't disengage, and it was dragging pretty hard, and he took it into a shop and they said, your caliper is stuck. They had to tear it all apart. And I don't know if they replaced it or cleaned it and put it back together. They rebuilt it. But I said, you know, you might want to check that. Check your rotors to see if they're hot. And nope, that wasn't it. He took it into a shop, and they said one of the coils was bad. The 2 center cylinders were not firing. It would just all of a sudden the coil would overheat or something, and the circuit would open, and that was it. So we got a new coil put in, which pretty easy fix. In fact, I think the coils are up in front. All he had to do was pull the shroud off the front, replace the coils, put the thing back together. Pretty easy fix. So they got her done. So I'm glad, you know, I like to hear it when it's not something I did. I also like to hear that it doesn't cost people a lot of money to fix stuff. I like to see the simple fix, and this was a case where it was a simple fix. So I'll have to remember that. I've never heard of it before, but I'm sure if it happened to this guy, it'll happen to others, and has. So that's all I got to report. That was a lot of information for one phone call, wasn't it? So anyway, I have to go polish. Okay, I got the front end realigned here. Actually, it was off more than I thought. It was off quite a bit, to tell you the truth. So it's a good thing I checked it out. I think one side was 2 degrees and the other side was over 2. So right now I have them both at 1/2 degree positive, and that's where I like to have them. So I had to change the toe and everything too. I don't think this is going to make much difference on the way it's going to handle or anything. It might steer a little bit easier, but other than that, I don't see any big changes. One thing I was going to mention, as long as I got the camera faced here, one of the things that is good about this type of design is there's no maintenance. You know, there's no brake shoes, ball joints will last forever, brake shoes, all that's going to last forever. The pivot points for the A-arms, those are Mustang, they're built to last forever. The only thing that requires maintenance, to tell you the truth, is I'm going to put a pump of grease in the anti-sway just to make sure that's full. But it's rust. You know, like some famous composer once said, rust never sleeps, and it doesn't. All the little, if there's a stone chip or something, you're going to have a rust spot. Around the bolts, a lot of times it'll rust. So once a year, I take a brush, little black paint, and I go around and just look at the rust. And it's usually in the wheel assemblies is the only place. And I just dab a little black paint on there, and it looks like brand new again. So that's the maintenance, is once a year, dabble at the rust a little. The rest of the bike, I did polish it, so it looks like the day I got it done and got all the parts on back from the painter. So yeah, she looks good. So I'm gonna go eat dinner because it is din time. Good morning, got a lot of stuff done. All the important things.